we have Bruce
He said,
Matskin
Mike, but
on.
he subpoenaed me, and I'm going to go to the 11th Circuit with this case. I
All
will
right.
be
He
filing a
doesn't
notice
know
of
who
appeal,
he's
and
dealing with.
I will be seeking an order, a protective order from the 11th Circuit as a journalist. So
He's going
that's
to
the
be
breaking news.
filing all kinds of things. The former lawyer, Richard Luthman,
Right,
is
the
not
most litigious
taking.
people in the world.
Right.
I may end up in front of the 11th Circuit at some point with the case I'm doing in Northern District.
Mike,
All right.
Bruce, you might end up in front of the firing squad with the case.
Right. All right. So we've got Bruce Matskin on, and I've interviewed you a couple times about a story that I guess we call it the Mac Daddy affair, but we aren't going to talk about that. We've already talked. We've not worn that out. That deserves more coverage. But you've been involved in a case that has taken over the YouTube. Not taken over, but it's
A
crazy.
segment of it.
Yeah, a lot of YouTube is just enthralled with this case. You have two clients. I don't tell them that. Well, I guess you have to tell them this. All I remember is the last names. They're married, but one is Cook, one is Preston, and
They're not married. They're not married.
and that's why they've got different last names.
Yeah.
But they do live together, and they got an adopted daughter. They are being sued by a guy named Jeremy Hales, and hopefully Bruce is going to get back on. And Hales has a very popular YouTube channel, 1 million subscribers, several 100,000 views every single time. He used to do like treasure hunting type videos, and then he started talking about his. They live in Otter Creek, Florida, which I think is a pretty small town. I don't even know if your clients are really neighbors, but they live in the same town. So what I wanted you to do was you describe the case, the merits or lack thereof, and while you do that, I'm going to get his complaint on the screen. So we're going to get both sides at the exact same time, and then we'll get even deeper into the case. So what is going on? Who is this guy Hales? Why is he suing your clients?
All right. Well, this began approximately May of 2023 when he began to make his YouTube videos focused on the quote bad neighbors. Mm-hmm. And they are in fact neighbors directly across. There's a very narrow road that runs between their properties. Mm-hmm. And then it just took on a life of its own, and it became a contrived reality drama for content on his YouTube channel, The Bad Neighbors.
Right. Now he obviously doesn't say it's contrived, but this started when he found some signs that said that he's a rapist or something. The signs accused him of being a criminal. How is that contrived? Are these signs fake, or he's not making up the...
to be determined in litigation? But what happened was on the morning of May 13th, 2023, Mother's Day, Sunday morning, mm-hmm. Allegedly, 3 individuals, friends of Jeremy Hales, came across while passing by these stuck in the ground, handwritten on wooden stakes signs that says no Ohio rapists. They're listed. No Ohio rapist. Jeremy Hales is an Ohio rapist, and such. Mm-hmm. Now, there are no photographs. There is one photograph that came of one sign stuck in the ground that was just revealed a few months ago, and no others. So none of these 3 people had the wherewithal to take out their cell phones and photograph them in their natural discovered state. Allegedly, they removed the signs. They ran into a married couple, the Grangers, found some, removed them, ran into Zim Paget on his golf cart, who was also removing some signs. And they gave them all to Zim, who threw them in the back of the car and brought him to where Jeremy owns the former schoolhouse property, mm-hmm. and delivered them to his agent, who mm-hmm. then apparently sent them off to him in Ohio. And he used those he used those signs to help get an Ohio protective order in his favor against my Florida clients. Although for some reason there's no suggestion that he actually showed the signs in the court. Now, mm-hmm. all that is the MacGuffin. Mm-hmm. So the MacGuffin is the signs. The signs mm-hmm. are the MacGuffin. And Rich, you know what MacGuffin is.
In his complaints, as I'm going through it, he suggests that your clients moved from one place in Florida to Otter Creek
Right.
uh, just to harass him and stalk him.
The whole underlying foundation of this story is his claim that my clients moved and bought the property across from him to stalk, quote, stalked him to Otter Creek so that they could extort money from him.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this lawsuit has a lot of allegations that they claim constitute extortion and had 2 counts for extortion. They call it civil RICO based on extortion. But just the big news this week is that the judge, in issuing an order on a request to excuse mandatory mediation, added a footnote noting that he has decided a long outstanding 12B6 motion to dismiss and will be dismissing the extortion counts. He will be upholding the remaining counts of defamation and tortious interference. So we now know as we sit, although the decision hasn't been issued, that the extortion counts are gone. So the entire underlying basis for the bad neighbor story has evaporated.
And from the complaint, seems like they should be gone. The complaint says Preston and Cook immediately began publishing defamatory statements about Hales on their various social media platforms. In May 2023, for example, Preston stated on her social media that she watched Jeremy Hales videos till recently and, quote, Jeremy Hales only thinks about the size of his junk.
That's defamation.
And that's not really defamation.
He's a public figure.
Right. And it's not either defamation nor is it extortion.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
It seems like he came up with very weak evidence for extortion. So go on. So
anyway,
here we go.
So the bad neighbors storyline is really takes off throughout the rest of 2023, and more and more of his videos become focused on them with all kinds of contrived storylines and embellishments and exaggerations, and he even starts to get in contact or claims they always contact him, old friends, members of the family, relatives of the parents of the daughter they adopted at birth, the biological parents, and it's just amazing all the different sub storylines that have arisen. Now, what happens though in March, he filed this federal lawsuit, and he was bragging on his videos about that he's going to file this federal lawsuit based on the signs for defamation and extortion, and that they'll never ever be able to find a lawyer to represent them. No lawyer's going to want to represent them. They have no money. I mean, and he openly says that. We even have a clip we played. We had him read the transcript of live in front of the magistrate December 19th that says, when I sue in court, a lawsuit isn't to win the lawsuit. It's to bankrupt my opponent. It's to cost them financial burden. It's not to win. I don't care if I win or not. It's to ruin them financially, almost quote unquote. And yet, so he brings this lawsuit, thinks that they're not going to have any ability to fight it. And so around this time, I'm looking around for a YouTube law channel to do my macaroni and cheese cover up. And a law tuber named Larry Foreman, known as the DUI guy on YouTube. He's a Kentucky lawyer who, after 5 years of experience, decided to become a law tuber. And so he focuses a lot more on his YouTubing than on, being a lawyer, I think. And in any event, passes himself off as some sort of a legal expert. So he actually was interested in my story. He scheduled me for a live stream in March, and I was all ready, sent him photo for my thumbnail, everything. And then he just cancels. He emails me, I decided I'm not going to do this story, and no explanation, no further interaction. And so I just, because of that connection to him at that time, noticed that he was covering the bad neighbors story. And at the time, the big angle was that in state court, my client, Michelle Preston, had obtained a protective order against Jeremy Hales against stalking and cyber stalking. And that was going on for months while Jeremy Hales and his lawyer were trying to get the judge disqualified for being biased. And they came up with this judge grudge storyline based on this judge Craig DeThomasis in Levy County, Florida, and they called him Judge Grudge, and Larry Foreman, Megan Fox, that umbrella guy, all exploited this storyline for months and months and played every court video and made fun of it, the judge, and made fun of my client, and it was all one-sided, all piling on. And that's when I came along and noticed what's going on. And I'm like, wow, this is really insane. And I realized that in federal court, these people were helpless. And there was a simple motion that could be filed, 12B1, because it was questionable whether Hales really was a Florida or Ohio resident. And if he was a Florida resident, where he spent, half his time, that would be a non-diversity jurisdiction. Also, there was flimsy allegations to support the amount in controversy of $75,000, also required for federal diversity jurisdiction.
So what do you mean by that? Well, what do you mean it was flimsy to support 75,000? He says that they put up signs, that they went on Facebook to hurt him.
Mike, put up that pleading again with those the things that were alleged. I want to go through that because that's actually,
the argument was that they didn't have definitive price tags that they could say this much money was lost here.
All right, hold on.
But Bruce, you know that you don't have to. You just got to say it, kind of.
Well, right. It's an argument, and that motion was denied. But the point is that the motion, the 12B1 motion, also rested on them where they really resided. So you could forget about the amount of controversy issue. The argument was that they spent so much time in Florida, that's where they should be deemed, to reside. So the point is, I provided that motion. It was a 2-page motion to Cook and Preston, the 2 named defendants, and they filed them pro se in March or early April, perhaps. And, who knew that it wouldn't be until August before those motions got ruled on and denied. But in that time period, everything changed because I became more involved, and we started to try to combat the disinformation and lies coming out of Hales and the surrogate channels. And so,
Bruce, let's back up. I want to look at the police. I'm just getting into this. I'm just starting to learn about this case, and I've read a lot of this. I'm just going to go through this with you. This is for the audience because Mike and me and you know all about the law, but there's some people watching that don't. So I want to just go through this.
I'm just going to stop my video for 5 seconds. I'm not going anywhere.
Go down to the actual statements, Mike, that are made that are the basis of the defamation, or the alleged basis of the defamation. I just went through and keep on going. Extortion and blackmail begins, and there we go.
There's 3. I can tell you. I can help you out. There's 3 paragraphs.
Hales raped my daughter. Jeremy Hales has to go. What the hell? Jeremy Hales, Ohio rapist. No Ohio rapists in Levy County. Stop Jeremy Hales. Jeremy Hales needs to go. No child rapist in Levy County. Stop Jeremy Hales. No rapist in Levy County. So my question is, is there any basis to the fact that Jeremy Hales is a rapist?
No, of course not. But we deny. We're not defending on the grounds. We deny that these signs were made by our clients or planted there. In fact, we have a handwriting expert that concluded that Jeremy Hales wrote the signs. So they have a handwriting expert.
So the theory that you have is that Hales wrote the signs, and I think your handwriting expert, that Hales wrote the signs to make them look like Miss Preston wrote them, and then he would have then planted the signs. So, and then
go down, Mike, to that footnote 3. Doesn't he say
all contrived for content and all contrived to create litigation, to create content to make money?
Go to 3. 3. Doesn't he claim what they said? One of your clients admitted that the other one had put it up. Go down to 3. Go down a little bit more.
I know what you're referring to.
Preston posted on her social media. John posted the signs, not me. Is that John is the co-defendant in the case?
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's in there.
So what Hales is saying is that your client admitted that the other client put the signs up, but you're saying that you have a handwriting expert that says it's really Hales that put the signs up. So we have basically a he said, she said about a bunch of signs that are accusing this guy of being a child rapist. That's what the core of this case is.
Yeah, but right, yeah, That's that way I call that the MacGuffin,
which is what survived. You say the extortion and all this stuff. These guys aren't Tony Soprano. Nobody came by with a Cadillac with Jersey plates on it and threw the guy against the wall. What this is if proven true, to say that someone is a rapist, to say that he's a criminal, to say that this is a very egregious thing. As a matter of law, it puts you in a category to say that you could recover for damages. The argument you have is that your clients say, well, we didn't do this. Actually, this guy did it himself just to create publicity for his YouTube channel. Is that the story we got?
Correct. And there's more though.
So then how do you,
correct. What you just said is correct.
Then, no, right there, this seems pretty damning. No, and in July 2023, Preston posted on her social media that, quote, John posted the signs, not me. John is Cook, John Cook. That's pretty damning, no?
No, I don't think it's damning at all, because people could just say things on the spot without thinking. And that's not, it's in a footnote. Please don't get caught up on that. Believe me, that the case is not going to hang on that statement, I assure you. Now, let me tell you what it will hang on, okay?
Okay.
Let me tell you what it will hang on, okay? There ain't no publication here, okay? So you can go into a room, Rich, and scream Jeremy Hales is a rapist to an empty room, or you can go into a room with Mike Volpe and me, and we can have a private chat and have over coffee and call Jeremy a rapist all we want.
Right. These signs were posted all over the place in Otter Creek.
Yeah.
For everyone in Otter Creek or anyone who visited Otter Creek to see that seems like there are legitimate damages if your clients wrote.
No, there aren't. No, there aren't. If I could finish my point about publication.
We'll give you your say. I just want this point to be clear legally. This is the law of defamation.
Defamation per se, yes. If you call someone a criminal or a rapist, you don't have to prove damages, especially.
Wait, it has two parts. It has slander and it has libel, right? And so slander is something if you say with the spoken word, and libel is something that's written or put up on like a billboard or something else. So slander is a little different than libel, because slander, you say something and the words are kind of gone. But libel and stuff that's recorded for those purposes has a permanence to it. So there's a little bit of difference, but it's both fall under the category of defamation. So that's what the claim is here. It's a harm to the person's reputation because of a defamation. Now you can go ahead. So say what you were saying about it.
All right, I appreciate that. So look, the allegation is that these were found at 7:15 a.m. on a Sunday morning, where the sun rose at 6:41 a.m. Okay, and there are no pictures of this. They come up with one much later that they could have stuck in there, the next year, and they can't prove anybody saw any signs. This isn't like in a typical defamation case. There are no issues of fact as to A, who said whatever is alleged to be defamatory, B, that it was published, C, in what form it was published, and D, that there were a class of people that definitely would have consumed the words, such as a newspaper article.
The signs were up for such a short period of time that there are no damages, because there's
no evidence it was published other than the three people. The only evidence is three people saw them, and they've already admitted that those three people, friends of his, don't believe anything in the sign.
So the other point is that there's a difference. Even if it was only up for a short period of time, it's a difference because I guess this is a remote area as opposed to next to the interstate. If you had a billboard that was even up for an hour next to the interstate that said Jeremy Hales is such and such, that would have been a lot of damage compared to something on a remote street someplace.
All right, but now let's deal with the next allegation.
By the way, let me finish the point. He said that the way in his deposition that the way that they'll prove this is through a traffic study. So they're going to do a traffic study somehow to show that X number of cars drove by in a 40-minute period on a Sunday morning at sunrise on Mother's Day 2023. And then I suppose we have to speculate that the cars driving by stopped and looked at the signs and Jeremy Hales. Let me research this guy and see who he is. It's ludicrous.
Is this a prominent house? Is this in the center of town?
This is a podunk back road. There's plenty of videos showing their properties. It's a podunk back road.
I cut down a tree with a saw. It didn't look like it was a main street.
All right, but let's deal with the next allegation. Now, his lawyer sends them a cease and desist letter, and they don't stop. I'm going to stand tall and not let Jeremy Hales hurt me ever again. I will put a cap in his butt. I'm done with you met your man. You've met your
Read the
man,
cease and
Mr. Hales.
desist. The
Right.
cease and desist is a letter from a lawyer saying to them,
Mhm.
you need to remove every single comment you've stated that has anything to do with my client. You need to immediately go back and find it all and remove it all. It doesn't say defamatory. It doesn't say only the things that are defamatory. It just says we demand you remove
this was
everything.
a cease and desist letter from a lawyer, thinking that
Yeah.
the people receiving it don't know what a cease and desist letter. So the cease and desist letter was so broad, it's meaningless.
Bruce, we cover scumbag lawyers a lot, and they ask for the world most of the time in their demand letters, so that can be easily discounted.
Okay. All right.
So yeah.
Rick,
so anyway, the
do
point.
do you want to see any other part of this complaint?
That's it. It's only 25, 27,
Bruce,
and 30.
Bruce, talk about what's going on
paragraphs.
here, because that defamation is the surviving claim. What else is surviving now?
Tortious interference. Tortious interference.
Now what's the basis of this
tortious interference?
They use their
before we start, before you get to say, the tortious interference, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is you do some type of action, right, an intentional action to hurt, knowingly and maliciously hurt someone's business. And so,
all right, now,
what is
hold on, before you go on. Jeremy Hales is a YouTuber, a TikToker, Instagrammer. His life exists online. Even if your clients wrote these horrible, terrible, awful signs, how could it mess with his YouTube, TikTok business?
So his answer to that is they used their defamatory statements in such a way as to interfere with his business. And then my question was, what did they do in addition to making the statements? Nothing.
Hold on. Does Jeremy Hales still have his YouTube channel? What the Hales?
Yes.
Does he publish videos about this lawsuit?
Almost every day.
Right. So isn't it the opposite? Aren't they actually creating business for him?
Correct.
And it's not just on YouTube, right? He's publishing all over the place. And let me talk for 30 seconds because this will stick. What they are doing is they are protracting litigation and multiplying proceedings as an end in and of itself. The litigation is the point. Their point of bringing litigation isn't to prove claims, isn't to win a lawsuit, isn't to recover damages. It is to generate content by exploiting the litigation, abusing the proceedings for YouTube content generation, i.e. profit. That is what is going on. So it is the ultimate frivolous lawsuit, in your opinion.
You have never seen or heard a more frivolous lawsuit based with the evidence supplied daily in the form of their YouTube videos. There will never be more evidence brought out of the admissions of a defendant when we bring our case for cyber stalking.
Bruce, I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Isn't it the American tradition that you can hire a lawyer? And I know lawyers and I'm from New York, down in Brooklyn and Court Street. You go into their office and you bring a nice bag of cash for them, and they tell you, Rich, I know I can't guarantee that you're going to win this case, but I can sure as hell guarantee you're not going to lose it. If what you're going for is to make this person's life miserable, then we have our full services available to you. Isn't that part of the American tradition that you can hire a lawyer and make someone's life miserable?
As long as you don't, yes. But if you miscalculate that person is going to have the ability and wherewithal to strike back, well, then you've miscalculated, because what they've done is this is there's two main components. There's the litigation, and then there's the YouTube and the real life stalking on which the YouTube is based. So there's a statute 18 U.S. Code 2261 capital A and 18 U.S. Code 2261 capital B. Those are the federal cyber stalking statutes. We will be bringing civil claims based on those. B covers a minor.
We'll talk about those. We got some time, but let's look at just how frivolous or meritorious these claims are.
Right.
This is a deposition that you took with Mr. Hales. And so The question on separate accounts, you've alleged my clients tortiously interfered with your business. Yes. And you allege they committed extortion directed at you. Correct. And then they object to the form that's legalese. Okay. Again, if you look at paragraph, strike that. Okay. It says Preston and Cook immediately began publishing defamatory statements about Hales on their social media platform in May 2023. For instance, Preston stated on her social media that she, quote, watched Jeremy Hales' video until recently. And Jeremy Hales only thinks about the size of his junk. Yes. Okay. Are you claiming that constitutes a defamation? Quote, this quote. All right. Yes. Are you claiming? I'm claiming that paragraph 25 is a portion of the entirety of the complaint that was presented to the court. That's what I'm claiming. So I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to answer it again the same way. So he won't answer how that specific statement, even though we saw it in the complaint as a defamatory statement. He never says how it's defamatory. Am I right?
Right.
All right. And he keeps going. And he objects several times that, all right, all right, so here, Miss Preston's statement that you, quote, watch Jeremy Hales, are you claiming that's a false statement? I don't understand the question. I'll rephrase and hold on. So you were given an example. My question is it your allegation at some point? And he keeps saying paragraph 25 is part of an entirety of a complaint that was committed to the court. He just keeps repeating that. Now, you asked him how that particular statement is defamatory, and he refuses to answer that question. Am I right?
Correct.
I think that's what lawyers refer to in legalese as non-responsive. I'm not a lawyer, but would you as a lawyer say that is an example of a non-responsive answer?
Yes.
All right. And he keeps going. But you said, for example, a defamatory statement. Give that as an example. How is that an example of a defamatory statement? I think we're going to get that. How is that? And are you claiming it's a false statement, which is, well, in all reality, this is great. Well, in all reality, let's talk about false statements. Who knows what your client actually says was true or false, considering under oath, she has stated that she has only watched, what, 2, 3, maybe 4 videos of what the hell, but then she's posting all over the internet that she's watched all the videos until recently. What is the truth? What's false? You tell me. She's your client. I think that's what lawyers call argumentative.
Yes. And I mean, show some of the tirades he went on.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the next one.
But I want to give you, because you're reading the first deposition, mm-hmm. and I specifically asked him about the interference, mm-hmm. and I said because they say that they use their defamatory statements in a way so as to interfere with their clients, and so mm-hmm. I said, I'm trying to find it. I'll find it eventually. I go, well, other than the statements themselves, mm-hmm. what actions did they take to, mm-hmm. quote, use their statements in a way to and he said nothing, just the statements. The statements mm-hmm. were made, and I guess the way they made them, the words they used, or mm-hmm. the tone of voice, I don't know, were mm-hmm. extra interference. This is the theory that he's using. It's that
the statements themselves.
There was no additional conduct to interfere.
So how can there be tortious interference if it's speech alone? I thought that's covered under defamation, right? Wouldn't that be dismissed for that reason as a matter of law?
You know, the magistrate was sitting right there to hear this 2-hour deposition. It was ordered to be live in front of him, and now eventually I got to bring a summary judgment motion, before the end of the deadline in late April. But there's no actionable defamatory comments based on a public figure here, none whatsoever, and mm-hmm. And there's nothing other than those statements that he claims they did to interfere.
But doesn't you're saying summary judgment? So for the people who are listening that might not know, the question here is whether this gets to a jury or not, and what gets to the jury. So for Bruce to succeed, for his clients to succeed, they have to defend the case properly. They have to show that there was, they can defend it in a whole bunch of ways. But in order for the other side to succeed, Hales, he has to show that the statements were defamatory, that they were false, and that they were made with an additional element of malice or reckless disregard for the truth, or something that puts it beyond just a mere situation. What he's saying is that Mr. Hales is a public figure. And when you're a public figure under Supreme Court law and the First Amendment law, there's a higher standard of defamation.
New York Times versus Sullivan. It's actual malice, a near impossible standard to reach. It's a near impossible standard. I want to read this. This is pretty interesting. Is Jeremy Hales only thinks about his junk a statement that is false, that harms your reputation? Number one, it is false. Number two, a judge or jury will decide whether it's defamation or not. I won't be the one deciding on those things. Okay, but you're alleging that harmed your reputation. A judge or jury will both decide whether that's defamation or not. Okay, but are you alleging that harmed your reputation? I'm alleging that your clients harm my reputation in horrific ways, but I'm asking you, but this only thinks about, is that a fault? Yes, but how does it harm your reputation? That will be determined by a judge or a jury. So this statement right here, was that the only time that he answered your question with, that will be determined by a judge or a jury?
Every question.
Right. Is it fair to say that many meritorious questions, his answer was, that will be determined by a judge or a jury?
No, sometimes it was, how could you ask that? How could you even ask that? Who would want to sleep next to you? Your nose is big. That was about half the answer.
That's the point I want to hear about, Bruce. You made an allegation that Hales has made some anti-Semitic remarks. What do you have to say about it?
Well, okay. Well, Mike, you have the highlighted yellow version? Because
well, I've got this part right here is yellow. Okay.
Well, I gave you one with like all the best parts highlighted. I don't know if that's the one that you have open now, but no. I mean, look, they gave me a nickname, Deuce Foreskin. This
goes back and forth. The
clip I sent you that he's saying I need to convert to Jesus,
right,
to save my soul because of what I've done in this legal case. You saw that, Rich? I sent it to you.
Yeah, I'll ask you, like, I don't understand why so many YouTube channels are covering this. What makes this so interesting?
You know, it's like they see it like a streaming series, a reality drama, but it's all contrived. But they a lot of the people, a lot of his fans know that he's lying about them and stuff, but they're entertained, and a lot of them are duped and gaslighted and actually believe that they are part of a campaign to save a child from the bad news.
And that actually has nothing to do with the lawsuit. There's a lot of angles to the story. I don't know if we got time for the girl, but they claim that your client's daughter is in grave danger, which I think is ludicrous. They wouldn't know. Now, is Jeremy Hales the only YouTuber that covers this story sympathetically to Jeremy?
No, in fact, so at the time when I started to get involved, there were the DUI guy who's a lawyer, and there were two other law channels covering it, Legal Vices and the MG Law, in the same way, mockingly and making fun of the judge. But when that whole storyline ended and the judge actually got disqualified and a new judge came on, and it began to grow, the lawyers jumped off the case. You had lawyers who were attacking a judge for being biased, making fun of a judge. You can't really do that. But they dropped out and they haven't gotten back on. One of them unfortunately passed away. Legal Vices, very, very popular law tuber. And the other one, MG Law, once invited me on a few months ago after he'd no longer been covering the case to try to, I guess, start to cover it objectively, and then rescinded that invitation. So, you can.
Well, besides those, are there other YouTube channels that cover it?
Yeah.
All right, now
as it's grown, there's about 10 more channels now that have jumped on, and some are growing their channels exclusively on this story.
All right, now the YouTube channels that are sympathetic to Hales accuse you of trying to create an anti-Hales ecosystem.
Right.
What is the root of that?
All right. So, uh, as the summer went by, and by the way, it wasn't until August that I realized I could even appear as counsel pro hoc vice
Mhm.
as conveniently as I was able to. I didn't think it was going to be as convenient to
Mhm.
do that. So I was spending my time trying to, find lawyers, find a lawyer in Florida or
Mhm.
more than one lawyer for these people. And then I ended up appearing pro hoc vice. Now, so this happened around August. I found two Lees in a pod on YouTube that was starting to cover Jeremy Hales and the Bad Neighbors, and it was only because he had attacked, almost physically attacked, another storage guy that they were good friends named Guapo. He goes by Storage Legends. It was all on video,
Mhm.
and two Lees in a pod, decided
Mhm.
that was the time for them to jump on the
Mhm.
story. So
Mhm.
I got in touch with them. I said, "Wow, this is great because there's so many channels that are all just piling on one-sided." And
Mhm.
now, I found you guys to cover this story, truthfully. I said,
Mhm.
we'll build the anti-Hales media ecosystem in a
Mhm.
text. Now, the text was, I had cripped that off of the Midas Touch Network. They
Mhm.
were always touting how they built the pro-democracy media ecosystem
What
on the
you
internet.
meant is we'll try to find some other people on YouTube who will cover it fairly or
Exactly.
sympathetically, right? And as I understand it, Hales has a huge YouTube channel. Megan Fox's, who we had on, talk about this a little bit. She's got a YouTube channel that's grown leaps and bounds. The Umbrella Guy, and those are and about like 7 or 8 other YouTube channels that are all of varying sizes that are all pro Hales.
Right.
Right?
And they're
So
doing it
isn't
within.
that a pro Hales ecosystem? One, and two, what are if Hales has 1 million subscribers and Megan has 50,000 and Tug has even more than that? Why are they so worried about the anti-Hales ecosystem? Their
Right,
message gets
it's
out.
another MacGuffin. You see,
Right.
let me
Okay.
explain. So this was just a quip I made in a text, and unfortunately, it was shared with a journalist that was covering the story from our angle, but then has now traded. She's switched sides,
Mm-hmm.
Shara Michelle. So
Mm-hmm.
she doxes these old trusted private
Mm-hmm.
conversations, and one of them is the anti Hales media ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes the MacGuffin for him to
Mm-hmm.
then contrive a whole conspiracy amongst the YouTube channel, Two Lees, one of their regular panel guests, Robbie Kesey, who does Swamp Brothers. He rescues alligators live. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Me
Mm-hmm.
as the ringleader, two just regular ladies who were supporters of the Bad Neighbors against all this stalking and harassment
Mm-hmm.
that he named, and then for some reason an MLS Making Law Simple YouTube channel, a guy named Dave Helm in Michigan, because he
Mm-hmm.
used to cover the story and
Mm-hmm.
had me on a live stream to talk about it in June. So
Mm-hmm.
he contrives a conspiracy based on the anti-Hales media ecosystem and brings an amended pleading in the federal case suddenly, asking to add 6 defendants and 14 new counts to this original 6-count, 2-defendant
And
complaint.
what happened to that complaint? Did the judge rule on that? And if the judge did, what was the
The judge
final?
about 2 weeks ago, a week ago,
Mhm.
denied that a motion. I wrote a
All
full
right.
opposition
Now,
Mike, let
on the
me
Bruce.
let
grounds
me
of
say,
prejudice and
Mike,
delay.
Mhm.
let me say for the record, as someone knows a thing or two about federal conspiracies, I am not a part of your conspiracy.
He is
But
not. All right. Now,
I
Bruce,
do have this question.
It's too
this
late, Rich. It's
case.
too late, man. You're past the point of no return, my friend. You
Right,
should
right.
expect a
My
This
subpoena
God,
case,
any day.
this case
this is
is going to
actually
be
getting so
this.
comical. It really
And
is.
you're
Right.
in Florida. Jeez.
No, I just want to ask real quick about this magistrate judge that you're running up against.
Mhm.
Because I have the legal, the legal stuff is what interests me. And it seems like it's a bit of this guy likes to throw a bomb at you every chance he gets. What's going on
Mhm.
with that?
No, I mean,
Mhm.
look,
Bruce has a.
I'm not.
He's got to be very careful about the way he
Got to be
I'm not
talks.
going to complain. I
diplomatic.
mean, for example,
Mhm.
Well, he's put it this. I'll say. Let me say the facts. The guy's got
yeah,
his chambers what in Pensacola, and the
Mhm.
case is supposed to be out of like the Gainesville division. and there's some order that this guy is supposed to, he takes like as a magistrate judge. The magistrate judges are like the little like whipping boys for the real judges. The real judges is an Article 3 judge who went before Congress. They were appointed by the president, and they actually are a judge for life under the Constitution. Well, the magistrate judges are these people that they get to help them out. You know, they just basically take overflows, because when you're a federal judge, you live a pretty cushy life. You know, you sit back there and you don't do much. You kind of hang out.
I mean, the workload is too much without magistrates. The workload would be too much.
Magistrates do all the work, and this guy's like making his decisions. He hasn't set foot in Gainesville for this case. Hasn't heard much. I think it's he's done everything by Zoom, I guess. So he's making his decisions from Pensacola, right?
No, there hasn't been any Zooms. What happened was, it was filed in Gainesville. Gainesville, and the Gainesville division is in Gainesville, and there's 4 divisions in the Northern District: Tallahassee, Panama City, and Pensacola. But then they spin the wheel, and it gets assigned to a magistrate 25%, and this one happens to be in Pensacola. Now I don't know why they wouldn't just keep it, not spin the wheel and make geographically according. But what happens is, it's in Pensacola, that's 5 hours away plus from Levy County, where everybody is, the parties, and about 50 witnesses that they listed in their initial disclosures. They're all within an hour of Gainesville. So we asked, all right, so what happens in this first deposition where Jeremy, keeps attacking me and won't answer any questions? As a result of that, the magistrate ordered us to do a live deposition in Pensacola in the courtroom. So I had to travel, at great expense. And in his order, he said that the only, person that acted appropriately in the deposition was the court reporter. And I felt I was very patient and really was trying to make some use of the one day that I get to depose my opponent. And when he wouldn't, respond to questions, I moved on and tried to ask other information, even stuff that might go to our counterclaims. And in any event, I got ordered down there, and we did the deposition for only 2 hours in front of the judge, very strict. And that transcript I've sent it to you, and there's even more direct responses about the very exhibits and statements in those 3 paragraphs, 25, 27, and 30 of the complaint, as well as in response to an early summary judgment motion I filed. They came up with about 20, documents of statements, private conversations, social media posts that they claim support their counts. So we went through those exhibits during that second 2-hour deposition, and it's worth looking at. Because
let me just read this, because this is interesting. From where do you get your allegation the statement was made with intent thereby to extort a pecuniary advantage? A judge or jury will decide, not myself as a layman. Is there a statement that you can point to by Mr. Cook that demanded a pecuniary advantage from you in any form? A judge and jury will demand that, not myself as a layman. I'm asking you to identify a statement. He won't identify the statement. He keeps going back to a judge and a jury, but he's the one who sued.
Right. But this is on extortion, and that's going to be thrown out anyway.
Right. If he doesn't know how he was extorted, why did he sue? I got another question for you.
Mike, but before you go on, that's actually attorney coaching. I'll call that what it is. It's the sense that when I was a lawyer, I had clients, and I had business clients, and I told them, if ever you get into a position where you don't know what to say, you'd say, all I know is that I acted in a commercially reasonable manner. It's one of those things where, the lawyer tells you, it gives you kind of like a little, a safe harbor statement to say. That kind of looks like a safe harbor statement to me. A judge or a jury will decide that, not my
Is there a statement that is there a statement that you can point to by Mr. Cook that demanded pecuniary advantage from you in any form? He responds with, a judge and jury will determine that, not myself.
Why do they do that, Mike? They do that so the lawyer can write that in his brief or in his motion and say what the answer really should be.
Non-responsive.
I don't understand what the difference.
Listen, I'm not a lawyer, but the 2 words that kept coming up were non-responsive and argumentative. Yeah. I want to ask you this question, though. This is going to be decided in a courtroom. Why are you doing so much media? Why do you think that media is so important for this case?
Okay, well, first of all, an extortion means a statement that says, do something or give me something or else. It's as simple as that.
And, look, if he doesn't know what extortion is, he shouldn't sue for extortion. So, and he
couldn't point to any such statement here or in the other deposition either.
Right.
All right. So the reason is because this exists in two realms, and that is on YouTube and in the real world. And the real world includes the litigation, but the litigation is generated by the YouTube. It generates the YouTube content. And so, the enterprise here is to profit off of entertainment by stealing the lives of private individuals and turning them into characters for a contrived reality drama called The Bad Neighbors. And so yes, there's the litigation, but there's the YouTube verse, the What the Hales Bad Neighbors YouTube verse, and that needed and needs always to be acknowledged and addressed. This exists in two realms, in court and on YouTube, and both called for having a presence on this side. And I've been able to so far,
I wanted to give this right here. Is there a statement by Mr. Cook that you allege where he says, "Give me something or else"? He goes, again, I'm a layman. I'm sorry, give me something or else. You don't need to be a lawyer to know if there's a statement like that. He refuses to answer that. But you've also sued. There's a part of this. Explain what's happening with this. You want thumbnails taken down. Now, thumbnails are photos that become a part of like the YouTube video.
Right.
What are these thumbnails? Why do you want them removed? And what is your legal argument?
So, while preparing, while trying to figure out what we're going to do in the federal action, we brought a state court action, and we found a state court lawyer, Scott Stark, to bring a case based on 540.08 of the Florida statutes, which just says that you're not allowed to use someone's name, image, and likeness without their consent for commercial purposes. And so the allegation was that Hales, as well as Larry Foreman, the DUI guy, and another loser named DJ Radis that we won't worry about, just some guy who makes music videos out of the whole saga, that they were in violation of that statute, and that was the simple claim, very straightforward. Now,
look, if you succeed on this, then I write from time to time now, not as much anymore, about a woman named Elaine Podlowski. She can then go to a court and make me remove photos that I get from the internet of her.
Well, there are issues involved. What's the intent? Is it for commercial purposes? Is it consented?
Well, yeah.
So the classic example is like the Girls Gone Wild. So the girls, flash their,
right. Well, they get their consent supposedly.
Right, but then they show up on the box cover, okay, and they sue, and they lose that lawsuit because they were voluntarily in the video, and the box cover is promoting the work.
Now, my argument to you would be that your clients would be considered now limited purpose public figures because there's been so much media coverage of this. As a result, it's fair game.
No, because they didn't choose to be. They're not limited purpose public figures for anything they did. They were made into public figures because Jeremy Hales decided to make them characters in his YouTube fake reality contrived.
But this has so much publicity that they are now considered, I think, by a court to be limited purpose public figures. What that means is for one specific, like if you are an expert accountant and you are quoted in all of these accounting magazines, and then as an accountant,
I understand what it is. Yeah,
right. No, for the audience. So I would say for people who are talking about this case, they are public figures. They are not public figures that, for everything else, but for this. So
there's a federal lawsuit, right? There's filed court documents, and
what would be your counter argument if I said they're considered limited purpose public figures? It's fair game.
But Mike, if they're in there and you're saying they're limited purpose figures for like when people talk about all-time bad neighborly relations, they're limited.
No, for this lawsuit.
Yeah.
No,
the
lawsuit has received
about the worst neighbors in history, and this kind of ranks up there. Having the worst disputes, the Hatfields and the McCoys, it can't hold a candle to these two. So, are you saying that's
all contrived? It's not true. It's just contrived. And so the answer is
the Hatfields will say that about the McCoys too, though. That's the thing.
We don't consider her a public figure. We consider this to be involuntarily used for YouTube videos to fulfill a contrived YouTube storylines,
but
and
then,
that the
everyone
thumbnails.
then use it
promote
so no one can put a photo. You know, Rick, you had that article about Monica Chartier, and you put up her ex-husband's new wife. Can she? So would she be able to then go and get her photo
to take
removed?
it down. I'm waiting for her lawyers to send something to me to tell me to take it down. I laugh
don't
at
forget
it.
we wouldn't have an argument. Let's say, you know, Rick Luthman does a video about this story, and he puts a photo of the principals. Well, that's legit. That's not what Hales is doing. He was using him to, you know, to mock and humiliate and to promote his videos, which he was involuntarily.
If Mike Volpe were to do that about this appearance that you have on here, wouldn't that Mike Volpe doing the same thing? He's promoting himself. Are you getting into the content of the speech at this point, Bruce?
That would not be. No. If Mike Volpe promoted today's interview with a picture of me on the thumbnail, no, I would not consider that.
Because you like Mike Volpe, though, because he's going to say
isn't that
things about you. That's
the
problem. You run the risk, Bruce, of getting into the content of speech, and that's like the third rail of First Amendment politics.
All right.
But listen, we weren't going to die on the hill.
Last thing. Let Bruce answer. Go ahead.
Okay, this wasn't a big deal. What we could have done is we could have amended to add straight up invasion of privacy by using her image, which has nothing to do with commercial purposes. When somebody's photo is used and publicized against their consent, that's an invasion of privacy. Now you can make the same argument.
Isn't that what Rick just did today? You put up a photo of this. What's the woman's name? The guy's
Melanie Hensey.
So you just invaded her privacy.
From her LinkedIn profile. From her LinkedIn profile.
You got to go to the intent and the purpose. It's not. You don't look at it in a vacuum.
You're second guessing speech. Why should the courts be the police to second guessing speech? Why should anybody?
Because free speech doesn't include the right to stalk, harass, and terrorize other people. That is not free speech.
Terrorizing, harassing. We talk about this with Paul Boyne all the time.
You make a better. I'll tell you what. You make a better lawyer for Jeremy Hales than his current lawyer.
Right. Well, but he would. Now let's talk about the last thing. You believe that what Hales and his crew are doing is cyber stalking. So make your case for that being cyber stalking.
Yes. Well, yeah. So since March, since May of 2023.
Wait, now before you do that, give me the U.S. code again. Oh wait, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, 18.
2261.
Correct. 18 U.S. Code 2261, capital A, and then a separate section, not a subsection of that one, but a whole separate is capital B.
U.S. 18
USC
18 USC
2261 capital A.
Right. Okay.
And then capital B just applies to underage. So, I mean, it's directly on point. He has since May of 23. We're estimating about 200 What the Hales daily videos have focused on the bad neighbor story of my clients and the litigation angles. And the amount of attacks in these videos, the types of attacks, I would never. He said something to suggest that she should experience being raped because he claims that she falsely accused him of being a rapist. So when he tried to a month later revise what he said, "Oh, I would never say that. I would never wish that on anybody to have to go through that with her." Did you catch that one, Rich? He said he would never wish that a rapist would have to experience raping her. This is the level of vitriol that he has. So he has. I mean, there's all kinds of defamation. That they're drug addicts. I'm
wondering, how do you break the seal between speech, even if it's reprehensible speech, to action at that point? I sort of, if you tell me, give me the action, the actus reus. That's not a speech related actus reus. Is he what's he doing?
Yeah. The stalking is physical too in the real world. So there's the cyber stalking, and then in physical world, every day he films over their privacy fence and posts photos. He has people who say, we spotted her out walking the child in the stroller on Route 19. A minute later, his fiance drives up and paces her, passes her, videos her, and there's a week-long storyline on his and other YouTube channels about how unfit a mother she is.
He has a little pub, right? He has a little
Correct
mob
me
of
if I'm
people that
wrong,
do
but
his bidding, little minions.
he goes around, he films them, and then he takes that film and he puts it on his
No,
YouTube channel.
that's no
Other
problem,
people
Mike.
film them and
That's no
supply.
problem. I want to hear about these minions because that actually makes it interesting because I'm dealing with some stuff now about that. So he has a group, a little crew that goes around and does his bidding for him.
No, come on, no. The minions is a phrase that we just is used to describe all the people who are just enthusiastically, you know.
Minions is my phrase trying to understand this. So he has a little crew.
He has lots of people on YouTube, people who are active in the social media, you know, propagating his story, attacking me, attacking others.
Does he have control over these people? Is he like
we don't know. We think some of them are him. We frankly think some of them are him.
So you're thinking he's committing impersonation or faking?
We believe there are some accounts
that if your client is in town, she doesn't have an expectation of privacy. Am I right? If she's like walking on the sidewalk of Main Street or even
guys, let me describe it without interrupting me. Let me try to convey to you what this example. Okay, just let me finish the description.
Right.
Okay? Thank you. All right. So she had to walk to Walmart. She didn't have to walk to Walmart. She had to go to Walmart, and that's like 8 miles away to get an electronic or something. So she decides to start walking and called some friends to pick her up on Route 19. Okay, so they get her on video walking with the stroller on Route 19, and that becomes a storyline for a week about how she's dangerous, unfit, and the child needs to be rescued because she was walking her on Route 19, a dangerous road, and all the elaboration and exaggeration and hyperbole around that. So she wanted to take a walk for a reason, had her child with her in the stroller, called some friends, hey, I'm on the way, pick me up, drive me. They did. And the storyline is that she walked 16 miles round trip in the dark on a busy road, pushing her daughter's trailer, save the child, rescue her, take her away.
But did they do anything else? Did they call CPS? Did they do anything like that?
Yes, but Rick, they went out and go on the road to film her for this storyline. You're missing my point.
Did they call
You're missing
CPS?
my point. They found out she was on the road. They went out to film her to create a storyline. That's cyber stalking.
But did they call CPS? They do something where they involve
27 times.
They called CPS on these people.
There are 27 recorded visits by CPS.
That's the difference.
Because of YouTube.
That's all I wanted to know. If CPS got called, it places it in a different category because there's government involvement. That's right. Okay, it's a different category than just speech.
All clearance.
But Bruce, if they, from their perspective, if they think that her walking with this child on the road is dangerous, she's in a public space. She doesn't have a right to privacy on a street. They can film her.
We're going in circles, Mike.
How is it illegal for them?
Cyber stalking when you say, "Hey, I'm going to go out and film her so we can make a story up about her being dangerous and put it on YouTube." That's not a legitimate public story to go and film a private person in public so you can make a YouTube video to make a contrived story about her being dangerous to the child.
Bruce,
That's
not in every case.
Stalking.
Bruce, not in every case, and you have to prove
in this case.
Well, that's what you're saying. If you're saying your opinion is that in this case it's not the case.
Well, I'm not getting hung up. I'm giving you one example. That's one example. This is going on 2 years. Their lives have been consumed by this. They get strangers threatening their lives. They get strangers telling them they should have their child taken away. They have CPS visiting their home 27 times.
Okay,
so we're not talking about just one walk on Route 19. That's a small example.
Bruce, that's a different story.
I'm not going to answer because I'm not a legal expert. But Rick,
YouTube content.
Is that compelling as a cyber stalking case to you?
Well, the stuff that he's talking about where CPS involvement, where they can't walk the streets, they can't do that, and when it crosses the line from speech into something else, especially if there's some type of simulation, some dishonesty, some artificiality to the interaction with the authorities, to complaints to authorities, complaints to police, complaints to child services, that gets to the point where I think you have a predicate for the
all right. Well, then we got some.
I don't think how speech can cross that barricade on its own, but I think it's getting close.
Rich, I don't know what you're talking about. That speech can't cross the. You're saying that you could, as long as you put a YouTube video up It doesn't matter. It's free speech.
No,
There's no line to be
I'm
drawn.
wondering where the true threat is. I'm wondering where the situation is that's causing the imminent harm. That's what I'm looking for, and I'm
You're
understanding that.
saying that it's not. You're saying that it's not harmful for someone to be receiving text messages from strangers saying that you should have your child taken
I'm
away and be
saying
thrown in
exactly
jail.
that's harmful, and I'm wondering what the basis for them receiving those messages
But
are. So that's what I'm trying to
The
understand.
YouTube
when you-
videos.
I think you have the elements there. I think
The
you have the
YouTube
elements
videos.
there.
That's where
Right.
they come from.
Yeah,
And
but
that's
is
fine.
he?
And they're targeted to an audience that they know that's going to go and do that to them. And I agree with you there. That would become a case. That meets the elements of a plausible case. I agree with you there. I just wanted to know a little bit more about how it crossed that barricade from from news gathering, like stuff that me and Mike do, into something else.
Right.
I don't want
listen,
Mike to get put into a situation where they're saying, well, what you're doing, you went out there and you collected news and then you published on the news and it was a newsworthy. How that goes, that's one category.
It's not newsworthy.
The category
That's
you're
the
talking
point.
about is a
It's
separate
not
category
newsworthy.
entirely.
But
That's
Bruce,
It's not newsworthy. It's not newsworthy.
All
That's
right,
the
but
point.
look,
It's
if
contrived.
Hales,
It's not
if
newsworthy.
Hale- you're not in Hale's head.
It's a federal case, Bruce. It's newsworthy now. Maybe
I'm not talking
have
about
been
the federal. I'm
beginning.
talking about the Route 19 walk. We're going around in too many directions here, Mike.
Right.
Look, Rich, I've been doing this now for close to a year. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of angles, a lot of side stories, a lot of details. And you could say, oh, what about this? What about that? Free speech. And he's out in public and filming out in public. Great, all fine. Look, the guy decided to come up with a storyline, the bad neighbors, and he involuntarily took their lives and made it into YouTube content for entertainment and profit. It's as simple as that. The federal litigation, all contrived to generate content. Nothing gives more compelling content than a court filing, a motion, an opposition, a deposition transcript. It's the end in and of itself.
Yeah.
That is the purpose. The litigation generates the content. It's not to win a case. It's to create present day content, ongoing as much as possible. Let me give you an example. They brought the amended complaint, adding 14 counts and 6 defendants that had nothing to do with the original 6 counts and 2 defendants.
Look, one of them was you. Your clients don't have very much money. They could not. You're doing it on contingency.
My point is, you're going off my point here. I'm talking about they want to protract and multiply. So they could have brought a separate lawsuit. They brought it in this federal case so they can drag it out as long as possible and create 6 new defendants with all kinds of discovery motions and motions to dismiss. Do you imagine the amount of content on YouTube that comes from that on What the Hales, Megan Fox, That Umbrella Guy, Shizzy Wisnet, and all the others, just from the ongoing litigation? That is the point. Get it through. Accept it. That is what's going on.
I think if you prove that he created the signs that started all of this, you probably could prove almost everything else you just alleged here, because then you've proven that it is contrived, that he drummed this up.
That's
I
the
think this
MacGuffin.
case comes.
That's the
This
MacGuffin.
case
But all
comes
the
down
other
to
stuff.
who wrote that sign. Because if your clients
No,
wrote
it's
that
not.
sign as a
It's
legit,
not.
it doesn't.
You're wrong.
Why am I?
It's
why
not
am I
going to
wrong?
be based on who wrote the sign. The
Why am I
sign.
wrong?
In my view, this case should never even get to trial, where we have 2 stupid experts about junk science over handwriting analysis, because that's junk science. Okay, there should not be a trial because Jeremy claims 3 people found some signs of which there are no photographs in the ground, and claims that some people may have driven by and seen them, none of whom he can identify, and not one person has ever come forward in the history since that day and said, hey, I saw those signs. I didn't know you were a rapist, or hell, I saw those signs. Not one person. So in my view, they have not even justified this extensive discovery, let alone ultimately a full-blown trial in front of a jury over this nonsense. So we could say 3 people found these signs. Nobody, I can't show anybody else saw them. These are my friends. They don't believe it. And give me $1 million from these people who have no money. It's contrived. He doesn't even expect to win money from these people. They're dirt poor. It's the litigation for litigation's sake. Protraction of litigation, multiplication of proceedings to generate YouTube content for profit. In a nutshell, protraction of litigation, multiplication of proceedings to generate YouTube content for profit.
So then, Bruce,
that is what is going on.
What tools does the federal court have to say this? We don't want to hear this. We shouldn't hear this. This is wrong. Because you're saying this is an administrative problem with the court.
That's my job.
They're being, well, yeah. So you're saying that you got to win the motion for summary judgment, and you should win the motion for summary judgment because they haven't shown why or a compelling reason why they should go to a jury, that there's no issues of fact. That's what you're saying.
That is what I am saying, Rich.
But is this worthy of a Rule 11? Is this worthy of sanctions? Is this worthy of other things? And why? Why is that?
Because as I expect, when this case terminates in our favor, meaning he loses on all of his claims, we will have the grounds to bring a vexatious litigation claim and a Rule 11 sanctions motion by proving that this was all contrived. There was never good faith intent to pursue legal claims on the merits. It was for the sake of exploiting litigation and exploiting the proceedings.
Isn't Mike right then? Do you win that motion immediately if it's proven that Hales is the one who wrote and planted those signs?
Who knows? I mean, I don't know how it'll all go.
You sound like Hales now. So that's for a judge and a jury to decide.
No, Rich, listen, I'm not making this up as I go along, my friend. Okay, I'm an experienced litigator. Let me explain.
No,
okay?
I know.
Hold on. This is important because I understand you're testing and challenging me, and I appreciate that. But listen, when I realized that I could appear pro hoc vice, when I looked into it and I realized what the requirements are, a good standing certificate, take a tutorial about the local rules, pay the fee. Okay. I entered my appearance in August, early September. I immediately filed a 12B6 motion. This was right after the denial of that original jurisdiction challenge on federal diversity grounds. I immediately filed a 12B6 motion on the interference and extortion and a summary judgment on the defamation. Now, that was in September. Last week, we learned he's granting dismissal on extortion, but denying it on interference and on defamation. For the first time, after we get that information, and the decisions haven't even come down, he gave us in advance. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now I know what's left, and I know what the discovery is going to have to show for them to overcome a later summary judgment motion, which I have until the end of April under the scheduling order to file. And in that motion, there will be citations, which I didn't have in the first one, to his deposition testimony, for example, and to the fact that discovery has been conducted and completed, and there is still not a single defamatory actionable statement that a public figure can recover damages for. There's still not a single action or conduct taken by either of my clients to interfere with any business or contracts beyond just their comments on social media or in private chats. His whole case is to gather as many public social media statements and private chats that say bad things about him and claim that he's entitled to claim damages for that. And it's ludicrous.
Mm-hmm. Right. And look, a guy with a YouTube channel that big, to say that somebody talking bad about him somehow wrecks his business is totally ludicrous. I agree with that.
He's made so much more money from this contrived Bad Neighbors on YouTube than if he were just doing storage.
Right.
He gets 40,000 more views on a Bad Neighbors video than on a storage unit video.
All right. Anything else you wanted to add? I think we're done after your closing statement to our
You guys
audience.
were too tough on me, you know. I feel like I got a little hot under the collar, you know. But
that's
we got to get to the truth, man. We got to.
But you gotta get up to snuff more on this. And a lot of these questions you'll answer for yourself.
I am no more informed than a juror would be. Put it that way.
I don't want you. I don't want you to be no more informed than a juror. I want you to be informed like a journalist, because in a lawyer mind, you know,
right. Look,
mind of a lawyer.
And listen, we're gonna invite Mr. Shockett, Mr. Hales, and Ms. Fox on, and they can give their side, or they can't. But
we place an odds on that.
It's the odds are 100% that we'll invite them. The odds of them coming on are probably much lower than 100%.
Let me, in closing, real quick. So Fox et al., you know, they cover this at his pleasure and with the privilege of propagating his content and his storylines. Because if they didn't do it one-sidedly and the way he demands, they would be stricken. He has stricken 3 channels that we're aware of for copyright violations. Even though they were fair use, complete fair use, small channels. That's
Right.
his way of bullying people who go against them.
Right.
That's what they
And last thing, I'm going to be on two Lees in a pod later today to talk about Megan Fox and my professional relationship. And I guess we also have a personal relationship, which is no longer in effect as a result of this case. And by the way, Bruce, you've known me for a while. Before today, how many times did I cover this case?
This is your first foray into what the
Right.
Hales case.
That will be important because she's very upset about my coverage of this case, even though
Right.
it has
No,
not
it was just a
happened.
coincidence. I mean, again, I was looking for coverage on the
He doesn't
macaroni
believe
case.
it's a coincidence.
Yeah,
And she's very upset about my coverage of this case, even though this is the very first time. And I think we were both fair and tough, and you answered the questions. And so we weren't in anybody's pocket. Bruce, thank you for being here. What's is there something coming up in the case? Is there a big, small thing? Anything that people? I guess they'll see it on content, but what's happening? What's the next
well,
step?
there's the big storyline they're going with is this motion for frivolous sanctions on the thumbnails case, even though it was voluntarily dismissed without prejudice to refile. They're saying that it was a frivolous, and so they're asking for sanctions, even though there's never been an adjudication on any merits. All right, so there's that. Then in the federal case, we're really waiting for what have now been the telegraphed outcomes of the 12B6 and summary judgment motion. So we'll get, I think, a better idea.
And then you're going to have discovery, which is going to create so much content. You just
that's been going on already.
Right.
There's a motion to compel, and today I have to respond to it. So today I'll be filing a response. That he's trying to discover 5 years of all of my clients' private phone chats and SMSs with a list of
sounds like
60.
what Dinesh is asking from Rick. It's all the same.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't have anything anymore.
Only difference is Rick is not actually party to the lawsuit. So that is.
I am not under subpoena technically, so everything's
right.
floating
under
away.
the subpoena that has.
Don't worry.
I had a barbecue yesterday.
The more if you really start to cover this case in a fair, truthful way, you'll get a villain name. You'll get caricatures.
Right.
And
that's fine. That's completely allowed, totally under free speech, and I don't mind. All right, Bruce, Rick, thank you for being here.
All right, we'll see you later.